Hi, my name is Bobby Sanabria.
Elena Martinez.
And we are the artistic directors of the Bronx Music Heritage Center, excuse me. The place to be, the BMHC. And tonight we have a special program, Voices of Justice, Black and Brown Solidarity. Elena.
Before we get into the show, we just want to do a shout out to the Bronx Music Heritage Center funders. The BMHC programming is supported in part by the National Endowment for the Arts, the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of Governor Andrew Cuomo and the New York State Legislature, public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council, the Lily Auchincloss Foundation, and the Laurie M. Tisch Illumination Fund. Tonight's program is specially sponsored by the New York Council for the Humanities. And with that, welcome to Voices of Justice, the role of artists in social movements. We've done a couple of these programs starting last year on different issues, sort of like hip hop and social justice, Black and Indigenous solidarity. Tonight, we have a special program, which I've been wanting to do for a long time, to get all the folks who are going to take part tonight back together. We're looking at Black and Brown solidarity from multiple generations, from the 60s, 70s, up to now, what's going on right now. And so to the people who will be hosting our event. Oh, before we do that, before I introduce them, everyone watching on Facebook, go to your Facebook comments section. If you have any questions for any of the participants tonight, please put the questions into that Facebook comments, and we will make sure that they get to answer them during tonight's program. So to get us through this program, I want to introduce Rebel Diaz and Rodstarz.
Okay. What up, everybody? My name is Rodstarz Rodrigo. I'm one half of the hip hop group, 1/3 of the hip hop group Rebel Diaz, along with my brother G1 and my other brother DJ Illinois. It's an honor, you know what I'm saying, to be here for this Voices of Justice, you know what I'm saying, as we approach the end of Black History Month, you know what I'm saying, with a Black and Brown Solidarity event. We come from a tradition of international revolutionary struggle, me and my brother being, seeds of the rebellion of the Allende, you know what I'm saying, government in Chile, which there was a CIA-funded military dictatorship that overthrew that government, which was a socialist government. And so we are, the children of political prisoners from that era. And so we grew up literally being the children under the table of political means. And so for us, it's an honor. You know, we grew up in Chicago, half our lives in Chicago, and half our lives in Hunts Point in the South Bronx. And so it's crazy because we grew up, being down with the Puerto Rican student associations that fought for Puerto Rican independence. And we learned about the Young Lords, both in Chicago and New York, you know what I'm saying? And then at the same time, learned about the last poets and learned about, Malcolm X and some of the influences, coming from Chicago, Chairman Fred Hampton. And so we come from an international school of struggle. And we consider to be, ourselves a part of that. And at the same time, though, we grew up as B-boys in Chicago. And so the coming together of that world is Rebel Diaz. And so for us, it's an honor. We got my sister, Asia Black from the Reminders. Anybody that knows Rebel Diaz, that's our family, from Colorado. We have, two legends. And I don't throw that word around loosely, but I say not just in the sense of the skill set, but in the sense of the compromiso, of the commitment, you know what I'm saying, to the struggle, a lifelong of struggle. And so we have, on his born day, Baba Abiodun of the Last Poets. We had the pleasure of being with you in Queens at the Queens Museum about a couple years ago.
Right.
And so just, and then we have also, the young OG in the suit himself, Felipe, Luciano, who's
go ahead, Rebel, go ahead.
Being that leader with the young lords and having really representing Afro Latinos before it was the in style thing to be doing. And so, we throw that out there because it wasn't just repping Afro Latinos for the hair and the rizos, but it was repping Afro Latinos with a political struggle behind it, you know what I'm saying, with ideas of liberation. And so today, we're going to have some of these conversations. We're going to talk about culture, the power of the word, the power of culture and social movements. And so, yeah, but at the same time, I want everybody to know it's Thursday evening. It's It's the OG's birthday. We celebrate. So I want to be in a space of conversation, love, and solidarity. So just want to welcome everybody, and show love to the BMHC for giving us a platform to have these type of events. Word up.
Thank you. Very eloquent, Papi. Very eloquent.
Okay, that's what's
Yes,
up.
sir.
Appreciate it.
So your parents are Argentinian?
No, my parents
Chilean.
are from Chile. Yeah,
From Chile, and they came after or during the Allende dictatorship?
Well,
not the Allende. I'm sorry, the Pinochet.
Yeah. So my parents were members of a revolutionary organization called the MIR, the MIR, which stands for Revolutionary Leftist Movement. Allende is the first socialist president ever elected in the Western Hemisphere.
That's right.
Via the
vote. The CIA was right behind that, man. The CIA was the one that killed him.
Yeah, they overthrew that real quick. And so what we clear about U.S. foreign policy, the way they work is they always after resources. So in Venezuela, they after the oil, but in Chile, they were after the copper. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And so you had companies, the Anaconda Copper Company. But at the same time, not to go too much into Chile, but a big part of the Chilean struggle also, even in today's context, is that Chile was a guinea pig for a neoliberal capitalist experiment.
That's right.
So
That's
the worldwide economy that we know today that got us living in these messed up conditions was experimented on Chilean society for 17 years under a dictatorship. And that dictatorship came out of a think tank out of the University of Chicago by an economist named Milton Friedman, who is the enemy of all.
We know him very well. We know him we know his writing. Yeah. I read most of his stuff. And his thing is stay with capitalism because it's the only democracy you'll have. Look what happened to Chile.
Absolutely. So he was part of that think tank that justified literally the slaughter of thousands of people, you know what I mean, violations of human rights. People were tortured by School of the America trained military that came from Fort Benning, Georgia. And so, we come from that context. And so in the Bronx, we started doing political work with the Movimiento La Peña del Bronx, with some of our elders, Victor Toro and Nieves Aires, that have been organizing since the early 80s, you know what I mean, with La Peña.
After Chile, Honduras fell, El Salvador fell, Guatemala, the whole of Guatemala fell. Now Guatemala has one of the worst murder rates in the world.
Absolutely.
Honduras too. You can't be a journalist and tell the truth in any of those countries. They'll kill you. They'll come into your house and kill you.
Yeah. And so we connect, feeding off what you said, Felipe, and I think it's important that we even have like this historical background real quick, is that another country that fell in Central America as well was Nicaragua. And Nicaragua had the Sandinistas. And as history's shown us, there was funding for the Contras, which was a paramilitary group that fought against socialism and the Sandinistas. And that Contra group was funded by Oliver North and the CIA, who sold crack in Black communities, the funds, a war against the Sandinista government, the Sandinista groups that was funded by selling crack cocaine in the Black community. And so
the guy who outed them, a guy named Webb, was called a liar. They hounded him. They hounded him out of a job. Eventually, he committed suicide, and they had the fucking nerve to come out with a movie that said, "Yes, we did it. We didn't mean it like that, but we did it."
That's ill. Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead.
But that's what they do. I mean, the pattern that the man uses to keep us in a subservient position hasn't changed. The pattern is the same. I mean, and this has been repeated over and over again. I mean, we need to recognize that we need solidarity within ourselves, but there's always somebody that gets in there, it sneaks into the cracks, and create division that causes our disaster. And we've had too much of that.
Yeah, but Dune, this is what bothers me. They'll mess with Guatemala. They'll mess with El Salvador. They will not mess with North Korea. Why do you think? They won't mess with North Korea. They won't mess with Cuba. This is where they're coming from, man. It really bothers me. This is called a punk-ass way to deal with diplomacy. They will not deal with any country that can defend itself and is willing to die for their freedom. They just won't do it. There's a guy named Celayo who tried to help with the Honduras. He was a landowner. Hillary Clinton said in the beginning, well, I think you should have a more progressive approach to the politics in Honduras. And then she backed off and let the landowners take over. This is ridiculous. Now Honduras is going through hell. Now, and by the way, Honduras is the place where the Garifuna are, the black Hondurans. It's a wonderful place, and unfortunately, it's under the
Talking about the Garifuna?
Yeah.
The Garifuna. They come from Honduras. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's so much stuff. You're right, Doom. But I call it a punk's way out. It's like a guy on the street could mess with all the little people, won't mess with someone who can really hurt him. That's where that's coming from. Anyway.
But that's the whole bully. They're bullies.
Yeah, they are.
I mean,
why won't they mess with North Korea? Why? Think about it.
Because
hey, man, wait a minute. Is that my son over? Is that my nephew over there, Eben?
Yeah. This Eben is right here.
He's getting handsomer every day. Look at him. Isn't he gorgeous?
How you doing, Uncle?
Hey, man, I'm good. I'm good to go, brother. I'm good to go. I'm ready for the revolution.
That's right.
That's what's up. Dune, I want to send a question your way. So we, it's your born day. We also saw recently born day celebration of we had a Malcolm, right? We had Malcolm recently, right? And there was recent news that talked about there being CIA, NYPD connections to his death, the idea of bringing open the case. I know that Malcolm was a huge influence, you know what I'm saying, from what I understand, on your work. Tell us a bit about
all the time.
The intersection of social movements and cultural art that the Last Poets put out.
First of all, the idea of the Last Poets came from the fact that we considered ourselves poetic disciples of Malcolm X. And because, you see, when they killed Dr. King on April 4th, 1968, I became a monster. I was no longer a nice colored boy from Queens. I mean, that's what I had been. And I was scheduled to be the most successful in high school. And I was supposed to go on to become a doctor. But when they killed Dr. King, I lost it because I couldn't have marched with him because I don't believe in turning the other cheek. But I really thought it was disgraceful that they would shoot this man down and he was standing on the platform of nonviolence and peace and love and all that. So I wanted to do something. I knew David Nelson. David Nelson was a brother who happened to work in Spanish Harlem. He had an anti-poverty program. Anti-poverty programs were popular back in the days. You could have a little something and get a little check. So David had this program called Double Block Educational Recreational Program, and it was between 119th and 118th Street, between Lexington and 3rd Avenue. And I was working for him as an assistant recreation director. I didn't have to do anything because the basketball, when the kids wanted to play basketball, go play basketball with them, or volleyball, whatever. And I was getting paid. And David was writing poetry. And he had said that, the problem that we have is that we're not united and that we need to be united. And if maybe we had some poets who usually ride solo, come together and be on stage under the same umbrella, it'd be a good example for Black folks to see that we need to be united. And when we say Black folks, you gotta understand, we weren't just talking about folks from the west side of Harlem. We're talking about Puerto Ricans as well. I think that many of us knew from a long time that the Puerto Rican strand was a part of the African root. And my first girlfriends were Lorraine Cepeda and Hannah Alvarez up in the Bronx. Come on. I mean, it's clear. I was hanging out. My best friend was Juan Martinez. I knew these folks, these were folks in my heart because I grew up with them and I understood them. And I learned a little Spanish from hanging out with them and going to the deli and ordering eclairs and stuff, something they don't even make no more. But the fact is that we understood that there was a need for unification. David wanted to put together this group. He didn't have a name for it, but he had an idea of a collective. When King was killed, I was going to become a serial killer, or else I had to get involved with the Black Power movement, which was a logical step after they killed the Civil Rights Movement. Killing Dr. King killed the Civil Rights Movement. Now it's Malcolm time. So David put my name, Garland Kane's name, and his name on the list to do poetry at the birthday celebration for Brother Malcolm at Mount Mars Park. Now, I never had a chance to meet Brother Malcolm. I used to see him I saw him one Sunday coming from church on my way to my aunt's house. He was standing on the corner of 125th and Adam Clayton Powell. It wasn't Adam Clayton Powell then, it was just 7th Avenue. But he was on the corner, and all I remember was he was an orange-looking man. he didn't have a complexion like normal black folks. He looked different, and he was taller than everybody else. So I thought he was a giant. I didn't know he was standing on a stepladder, but he was talking to the people. My aunt told my mother, because I was like a young teenager, and my aunt said to my mother, she said, "See that man over there? He's telling the truth, and they're going to kill that man." And I couldn't understand why they were going to kill him for telling the truth, because if I did not tell the truth, I was going to get my butt whipped big time. But now they're going to kill him for telling the truth. And I did not understand. But while I was in high school, and it was February 21st, it was on a Sunday he was killed. That Monday when I went back to school, my homeroom teacher, who happened to be black, her name was Miss Carpenter, she gave us a holiday. She said, "A great man was killed yesterday in the Audubon." And I never really understood that until I started getting involved. But Malcolm was a direct reason why I'm in the Last Poets, because we started on his birthday, and his sentiments of us being in charge of ourselves and taking care of what we need to sustain our existence are something that I still believe in today. And his passion and love for black folks is something that I try to mirror as well. Malcolm, without question, was a brother who we can all appreciate forever because of his love for his people and what he did. So I'm very proud to stand on actually stand in the shadow of Brother Malcolm.
Oh, yeah, of course. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Felipe, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So one of the things that I've always admired, and I think it's a great story, is how with the Young Lords, you know, a lot of times young folks, I feel like romanticize revolution. And to me, it was a beautiful thing that, you know, to learn how when y'all started doing work, the first thing y'all started getting busy with was dealing with the garbage, right?
Yes.
Can you break down a little bit, just, you know, like what lessons in organizing that are still like applicable today, as far as like doing like the everyday work that's not that romantic idea of like shooting out the hot rhetoric, and just kind of like the everyday grind that can lead to something as simple as cleaning up garbage, but that being a larger impact for the you know, community. You can share a little bit about that organizing experience from that moment and how it relates to today.
First of all, the most important thing in revolutionary organizing is listening to the people. Not deciding on your agenda, but deciding on the people's agenda.
Exactly.
That was difficult for me. I had just come out of jail. I came out of a whole different experience. I was with the Last Poets, and the Last Poets were beginning to move me into, because poetry can move you into revolution. And that's what happened. I was mentored by Rap Brown. So there was no way I was going to move away from a revolutionary strain. People said, "Why don't you stay with poetry?" But there's no way I could have stayed there. I had to go beyond poetry and begin to do political action. So what happens is, when we went out and began to ask, let me give you a little history. I was doing a political workshop in the East Wind. Remember, Dune?
Were you doing it? No, let me tell them. You had folks, about 50 to 60 young people would have classes all day at City College, and before they go home, come to the East Wind and listen to Felipe break down socialism, communism, capitalism better than any professor at City. These folks would have a pad and a pen, and they would really go in on just what that stuff was. Felipe knew how to explain all of the political science better than anybody. I've never heard a political analyst better than Felipe, and he had captivated all of those students. He did a fabulous job, and so we had a place in Harlem called the East Wind, and that's the place that he's talking about, where he used to conduct these workshops.
So one day, Rap Brown walks in, and he sits down, and a Puerto Rican brother, who was a nationalist, started getting, I'm not used to you with your hair like that, Evan, I'm gonna tell you right now, came in and started running the color game. He ran the game, "Well, I'm not sure, we gotta do our own thing." And Rap Brown just stayed very quiet. He said, "Brother, if you were down south and you ran that stuff, they don't care what kind of Negro you are." And he gave the story of a guy, of a soldier who had just finished his tour in South Carolina, is coming back up north on the bus and get on the bus, and the driver said, get to the back of the bus, and the Puerto Rican said, no, tú no entiende. I know explique English, but I'm no black. The driver told him, I don't care what kind of nigga you are. Get to the back of the bus. And that's how he found out. Now, I use that as an analogy for a lot of what was happening in those days. Puerto Ricans were not ready to confront their blackness, their negritude, their Africanness. Thank God my grandmother, who has been in my heart all my life, always told me, Africa is your mother, Puerto Rico is your father, but Africa is your mother. So I grew up in that context. Having said that, I was in the East Wind doing the political workshop, and a group of young Puerto Rican students came up to me and said they wanted me to join their group, a group called La Sociedad de Albizu Campos. They told me they wanted to do some actions in East Harlem. And it sounded like they wanted to get militant. I am used to a much more confrontational approach. I'm used to a much more, how can we put it, much more military approach. So I said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I like y'all. I think y'all are wonderful, but I have yet to see Puerto Ricans fight for Puerto Rican independence. With the exception of Albizu Campos in Puerto Rico, I have yet to see Puerto Ricans fight and put their bodies on the line for Puerto Rican independence. So he said, well, we're going to try. We're going to start with this. And it was a night. It was Mickey Melendez. It was a guy named David. Denise was there, a few others. So now what happens is I go, I don't want to do it. And I told him nicely. An old dope fiend named Roberto Ortiz took me on the side. He was with him. And he knew these kids. And he took me to the side of the East Wind, near where the windows were on the stage, Dune.
Yeah.
And he said, let me tell you something, man. I know that you come from a whole nother position. You're an ex-con and all that stuff. I want to tell you, these guys are ready. They're not ready, but you can make them ready. So I listened to him and went with the group, and started organizing there. We call it the Sociedad de Albizu Campos. Now, we started asking people in the street, what is the most important thing you need? And the first thing they said was garbage. I was ready to leave. Rebel, I wanted to go. Garbage. We got to fight the police. That's what we got to do. But the old people had enough sense to know that garbage is a health issue. It affects your kids. It affects your quality of life. It affects your disease rate. So we started thinking about it, and we said, okay, we'll help. And we started cleaning up the streets. That was the beginning of the revolutionary consciousness. We cleaned up the streets. We went to the sanitation department, which is on 90th Street. I lived two blocks from it. And I went to the sanitation department. There was an Italian guy there. And I asked him for industrial brooms because the brooms we were using was shredding. And he said, you know something? We don't have it for you. We ain't got nothing for you. We're not going to give you any brooms. I said, sir, we just want to clean the streets. We'll give them right back to you. He said, maybe you didn't hear me. And he put his finger in my face. Let me tell you something. What did I say? No means no. He shouldn't have done that. I pushed him to the side, and we all came and took the brooms and went out of the depot.
He shouldn't have done that.
People were shocked. They didn't believe, because this the sanitation department. You don't mess with them. They're city workers. We took it. We swept up the streets, and we did bring back the brooms. But that started the garbage offensive because they didn't. Yeah, they wouldn't pick it up. They wouldn't pick up. So we said, okay, since you're not going to pick it up, since you're mad at us because we took the brooms, I'll tell you what. We're going to put the garbage in the street. And that was the beginning of the that put our signature on it. That was our pattern. We would, when they didn't pick up the garbage, we would put it on 3rd Avenue. I didn't know at the time, Rebel, that if you stop traffic in New York City, you stop the money.
That's right. That's right.
You know that any intersection.
So 3rd Avenue in East Harlem, 3rd Avenue goes up to the Brooklyn, the Deegan, what else?
Box.
All of it. It goes right up. So we said, no. You are going to listen to us. So they had to pick it up. So the sanitation department started picking it up because we were there, and the police would come. But then they had spies in our group, and they would know when we were going to do it the next time. So we were smart enough to say, okay, how can we outwit them? We had these little guys, 8 and 9 years old. By the way, those 8 and 9-year-olds are revolutionaries. And they would tell us they're congregating on the corner. They're getting ready to raid you. So since we knew that we wanted to, what we would do is we'd put, what do they call it? Lighter fluid on the garbage and set it afire. Now, not only are you engaging the police department and the fire department, you're engaging the fire department. That's overtime, brother. So it was difficult, man. They had to deal with it. Eventually they cleaned up. Now they cleaned up the garbage, and we still have problems. And I think we may need another garbage offensive here, but it's better than it was 50 years ago.
Yes, Felipe. And then you're talking about some grassroots work. That's the work. That's the work right there. Absolutely.
That's how we started the garbage offensive. And then on top of that, we realized that health was revolution.
Yes,
so we took over a TB truck. We took over a TB truck. We took over Lincoln Hospital. We weren't playing.
Health is
that's
revolution.
Right. Health. That's right. You're right.
Good health.
Health is wealth, man.
Yeah,
health,
hey,
definitely, for real.
That's it. We always toast to that.
Mm-hmm.
So now, and let me tell you something.
Toast to wealth. Everybody give a toast to wealth. All right.
Health and wealth.
Health is wealth.
Health is wealth.
Real quick.
You ain't got your health, you in trouble.
Throwing the convo to my brother G1 in Chicago, holding it down. G, so, we have, brothers from the Young Lords, from the Last Poets, your crew, which is also my crew, but I'm doing the facilitate, so I'm throwing the question your way, right? Your crew in 2008, took over an abandoned candy factory in the Bronx and turned it into a hip hop center, an autonomous hip hop space. Speak a bit about organizing in the South Bronx and the work of taking over a building, but at the same time, the influence that you have from folks like the Young Lords and folks like the Last Poets as well. Tell me a bit about some of that work, but also how that work happens in the context of the influence of the people that came before y'all, that whose shoulders we stand on as far as work goes. You muted.
Rebel, don't put your hand in front of the camera, because then I can't see you. Your hand, you put your hand. Don't put your hand in front of it.
Oh, I think I might have froze.
No, it's okay. You're okay. You're okay.
Gee, I can't hear you.
Neither can I.
Yeah, I can't either. Is he got his thing muted or what?
George, is he muted?
You hear me now?
Yes.
Now we hear you.
Yeah. Peace. So first of all, thank y'all for the space. Peace to the OGs. For us, it's a blessing to be able to share and have these conversations. I think that Felipe said it best in terms of serving the people. You know what I'm saying? I think that we learned through the process of organizing in the Bronx that we ain't organizing the poor. We the poor organizing. You know what I'm saying? too often,
I like that.
Yeah, it's like they wanna. You know what I'm saying? They want to sell us through the nonprofits and all this stuff that we coming and saving somebody, as opposed to saving ourselves and practicing that self-determination. And I think that the biggest lessons for us that we learned, and I'm sure, Rod, you can speak on it too, but was that it was about that work. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we would have meetings when we started off, we didn't know what we was doing. There was friends would comment like, y'all just got a revolutionary clubhouse. Y'all not really organizing. Y'all just want to party. And we realized through the process that the work is what was important. And sometimes we'd have meetings trying to organize ourselves, and we had some of the academics come through, and we'd be like, we hand them a broom. You know what I'm saying? Like, today we cleaning the space. That's what we're doing. In that spirit of the Young Lords that was picking up the garbage, and some of these academics would ride out. They wouldn't even want to stay for that type of meeting, for that type of getting your hands in the dirt type meeting. And so for us, I think that we really learned about doing the work as opposed to just being in full discussion at all times. We were a cultural space, and a lot of times with the culture that we practice in hip hop, we've seen the cooptation of capital, of industry on our culture. You know what I'm saying? And so we have a lot of young people in our neighborhoods that's maybe participating in singing songs or lyrics that may be misogynistic or violent, that are reflections of the capitalist culture we live in. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't shut our doors to those young people, because too often I think in the movement in these type of spaces, especially now, it's like we have a moral umbrella over people, Yeah. Like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that. And it ends up being,
speak on it, brother. Speak on it.
Well, we start rejecting the sector of our neighborhood.
Exactly.
So for us, we felt we wasn't talking about having those restrictions. We wanted to have safe spaces, but we also realized that having those safe spaces depended on creating an open space to even begin to have that dialogue. You know what I'm saying?
Right on.
For us, those are some of the biggest lessons I think that we learned in terms of organizing with young people in our neighborhood.
That is a wonderful way of explaining moral rectitude. It's called leftist fascism. Now you become so morally rectified that you become like a Puritan. You can't say this, you can't say that. People are ignorant. People are not there yet. So you have to guide them. You can't, like the N-word. Abiodun and I use it all the time. We understand where to use it and when not to use it. But you can't now jump on a cat on the street who's saying that, who's raised in that. You can't jump on a cat who uses the B word to the woman. He doesn't know yet. So you got to guide him into, love him into a political vocabulary that is much more resonant. Unfortunately, we get to a point where we become extremists.
Right, exactly.
We become fascists. Oh, you can't say that. And so as a result, we lose a lot of people in the movement because they say, man, to hell with these cats. They think they all of that, and they're not. All of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory, brother. So we've got to begin to understand that a lot of these kids need help. And by the way, what I love about the fact that he was talking about is that they took over a building. We had to do that with the People's Church. We got property here that nobody's using. In the South Bronx, it's all over the place. And if you're not doing it, the white boy's going to do it. Already on the when you hit over the 138th Street Bridge, already they're gentrifying that. That's gone.
They got towers.
I'm telling you right now, it's out. They have a walkway. They're going to have a riverfront. And before you know it, it's going to look like Williamsburg. They're going to take that. And it's interesting that all of the areas that they've taken are all Puerto Rican areas. Williamsburg, Brownsville, Bushwick, Chelsea was all Puerto Rican. They took Lincoln Center, and that used to be a Puerto Rican area.
Exactly.
But don't kid yourself. If they feel that you are weak, if they feel the Puerto Ricans are not organized, they will chump you off. They will take it. Now, in Harlem, what they've done is they co-opted the black politician. They gave them money to do it. Right. They don't have to bogart. They gave people millions of dollars, and now Harlem, it looks like 42nd Street, really.
Exactly, right.
That's the deal.
Felipe, feeding on what you're saying, right? The topic of gentrification, I think that's a powerful topic to touch on. And so when we talk about culture, sadly, a lot of times we witnessed, culture sometimes open the doors for gentrification. Because folks be like, oh, well, there's a little friendly graffiti on the wall, street art. They don't even call it graffiti no more. They call it street art. And so I share that because it brings up the conversation to me in this space, or the context we're in, of revolutionary culture. So Asia, I think it's definitely important that we get, the voice of Las Hermanas and the sisters in here. I consider you to be a cultural worker, even though you're an amazing MC and member of an amazing hip hop group, the work that you do, I think is in a lot of times context of culture for social change. What do you think is the power of culture in social movements? I just want to share that because a lot of times in social movements, culture is seen as something that you kind of sprinkle on top of the recipe.
Well, culture, recognize culture is a way of life, brother.
Absolutely.
And everything you do has a cultural reference. I mean, and it's like, it develops a value system that you are willing to die for if you recognize the value of your culture. I mean, Black people and Puerto Rican people have shared one thing in culture. We love life, and we're celebrative people. I mean, it's no miracle that Chana Pozo got together with Dizzy to make bebop what it was. I mean, it's no mystery that Felipe was in the Last Poets. I mean, the fact is that we know that we are joined together by virtue of the fact that we both see life from the same eyes. We don't see life as something to be destroyed, to be abused, as other people do. We don't see life as being something where you deprive somebody of the possibilities of having a moment of joy and glory. And you got people that are living in misery, and all they want to do is bring misery to others. Our culture doesn't do that. Matter of fact, our culture is inclusive. We include, if you want to eat some collard greens and cornbread, we'll accept you. We're not going to say you can't eat or you can't come in here. If you want to learn how to dance, you want to learn the latest dances. Well, how many sisters have to teach white folks every Christmas how to do the electric slide? They see them Black folks do the electric slide. They say, "Ooh, I wish Sadie could teach me how to do that." We'll share it with you. That's who we are, and it's all that. Those are cultural nuances. So when you deal with the culture of Black folks, which is a very beautiful, magnificent thing that we don't give credit to. Because we always say, well, the dominant culture. White folks don't have no culture. We were brought here to give them culture. They had no idea of how to live, how to be civilized. In chains, we taught these people how to be human. And we're not taking credit for that. We're not slapping them in the face, but we were the only humanity that they knew of. They were beasts hurting each other. And they will do that now. Listen, we just experienced the orange clown in the White House. He didn't care about anybody. He was a classic barbarian. And they gave him he got following. He got 75 million people who voted for him. So America's got some issues that we have to deal with. Those issues can be blinked out immediately if you recognize that we've got a crew of folks who are called Latin and African people who are on the same page. And we should have no problem with eradicating what we don't need. And it doesn't have to be a blood thing. It starts with the culture, what you eat, how you sleep, where do you dance, how do you party, how do you treat your brothers and sisters. Those things are cultural facts that we need to actually applaud in the whole. Yeah. And I look forward to that. And you'd be surprised, you can kill more people with a cultural understanding than you ever can with a bullet.
You know, that's why I love you. I love you, Dune, because you're such a wonderful angel. Dune is a very physical guy. Went to jail for fighting the Klan, and so he's serious about his commitment. I do say that I think we are heading into, because these people haven't died. Trump is still going to try to do his best. I think we're heading toward a civil war.
No question.
But that's besides the point. Right now, and I want to hear from Asia, culture is the spiritual exhalation of a people.
That's right.
It's the spiritual exhalation. It's what we breathe out. We breathe in air, we breathe out culture. Now, what we need to do is begin to make that culture a conscious living thing so that our children, when they go to school, they feel it. When they sing their songs, they feel it. For example, wouldn't it be wonderful if on the graduation day, instead of these, what do they call it? Pride and what is that song they use? Pomp and Circumstance. They had Mood Indigo by Duke Ellington. Wouldn't that be something? What if rather than that they had Oye Como Va? You know what I'm saying? We need to start appreciating our culture and appreciating what we do. Unfortunately, Latinos do not understand how valuable their culture is.
Right.
People from Japan, Germany, Luxembourg, Italy, Spain come to, and they hear this Latin music and they go crazy. The Africans love this music.
That's right.
They tell me all the time, man, we dance to you all the time. They understand the Africanness of it. We need to understand the importance. So I think you're absolutely right. Culture in the end is what's going to win this. And I agree with you, Doom. I believe in confrontation, but I believe what's even a more potent weapon is culture. Because Amiri
First of all,
Baraka,
Felipe, you don't have a reason to fight. You don't have a reason to fight if you don't know what you're fighting for.
If you don't know what you're fighting for, exactly. You need culture means consciousness.
Exactly. Culture needs consciousness. And we need to respect the fact that we're here bringing a gift to the world. We're not people who bring evil or madness or disease or horror. We bring gifts. We've always brought gifts. Even when we couldn't give gifts to ourselves, we gave gifts to others. And
the only problem I have with that, Doom, the only problem I have with that is I think it's about time. If they kill my child,
of course,
we've got to do something about that. I cannot stand there and let them kill my child, and there's no response.
No. We need a drop squad. I totally agree, and we need to have a response to that. I mean, matter of fact, culture without culture without hold tight. Culture without a backup means that you don't have a spine. We've got to show unfortunately it's
about that without the waves.
No, the bottom line.
Abin, let Dad speak. Abin, let Dad speak.
I'm sorry.
The bottom line is that when you don't show your spine, people think you're weak and they prey on you.
Whoops,
and,
there it is.
And the truth of the matter is that we've got brothers and sisters who are willing who are willing to step out.
That's what I'm.
We got brothers.
You got to tell Eben to cool out in the background because I can't hear you.
Yeah, I know. He's just
because he shouldn't be talking like that right now.
Yeah, because he thinks the CIA will come in and arrest him.
They are. You're not supposed to. Come on, man.
Listen, Eben, baby boy. They know who we are already.
What the fuck, man? Certain shit you gotta say face to face. Am I lying?
No, yes. Felipe, Eben is a little hype. The bottom line is that I know my personal agent. I don't worry about that shit. They can come and get me in the morning. They can come get me tonight.
They'll get you anytime they want.
Anytime they want me. I'm here by the grace of the gods and the ancestors.
Both of us are. Both of us are.
And I'm going to continue to do what I do. And the other thing about America, the one thing that people need to recognize, America has a space for dissenters because they want to give this impression that it's a fair country. They know they got, as long as they got the dissenters in check, they know where I live. They know who I am. They know what I like to eat. They don't worry about me.
They worry about you. And let me tell you that they're not only that, but they know who these guys are who came in. These guys from January 6th, they know who they are. Why are they taking all this time to bust these terrorists?
All right, tell him I'm right here, okay? I know he's a great guy. I'm on a conference Zoom thing, like I'm on a meeting and
we kind of let I want to hear what
like,
I want to hear what AJ.
I had to turn my phone on and turn it back on.
Okay,
my name is Divine. Pleasure. Part of my left.
Rebel, who is this?
I'm gonna just walk and get myself.
Bro.
I'm sorry.
I need to hear from Asia.
That's Divine. Apologies.
How do I mute? I'm new to this.
Okay.
Divine's on a bus.
All right.
So,
all right, we've exhausted that point. We got a point. Let's hear Asia.
So one thing
Matt, Asia, I like before you go on, Asia, I like to say this. We are at a point where we need to. Let me say this real quick, Elena. We are at a point where we need the lyrics to be uplifting and healing, and words are very powerful.
Yes,
rappers and singers, anybody who is in front of a mic should feel the responsibility to say something that's going to raise us, that's going to help us rise. We don't need to just be milling about in the dog pound. We need to step it up and say something that's going to lift us, because that's what time it is. And we can do that without any fear of any reprisals. The fact is that if you're going to be on stage, you're going to run some words, you're going to sing a song, sing something that's going to help us live a little better and stronger than we did yesterday.
Speak on it, Doom. Speak on it.
I mean, that's very important. I mean, that's a responsibility. Being an artist is not a luxury, it's a responsibility.
And when that responsibility becomes real, you will be held accountable. Trust me, when the United States starts arresting artists, we will know revolution is here.
Absolutely, because they're the ones that are always going to get the ears of the people. You know, it was very interesting. Fred Hampton wasn't considered like an artist, but he understood what Felipe said earlier. What the first thing you got to do is listen to the people, know what the people need. Fred Hampton and his crew in Chicago, they knew that the people needed food. They needed breakfast. They needed something to give them nourishment so they could go on with their day. Life was rough for those folks. So they started feeding them. I have there's a brother I know, I can't say he's a friend, but it's a brother I know who was working for the FBI. And he told me, he says, yeah, I used to meet with Jay every other day. And I didn't know when he said Jay, he was talking about Jay Hoover. So he says, I was one of the people assigned to the situation in Chicago. And so when Jay wanted to get a report, I said, Jay, they're not taking the people to the shooting range to learn how to shoot guns and nothing else. He said, they're not doing that. He said, they're doing something. He says, all they're doing is feeding the people. When he said that, Jay went crazy. He said, they're doing what? He said, they're feeding the people. He says, are you crazy? To feed the people is the worst thing they can do. Do you realize if those people are getting fed by those renegades, that they'll probably listen to them? That'll be a problem. Are you sick?
That's exactly what happened. In fact, Bobby Seale has some Freedom of Information communiques that he says that it is the most effective program they have. The middle-class Black folk in Chicago are becoming affected by that, and we need to destroy the program. Listen to this. Destroy a program that's feeding children. That's where they were coming from. The breakfast program was more than guns, more than fighting the police. the breakfast program did more to bring people to the revolutionary side of politics than anything. That's why we took up the breakfast program here in New York, the Young Lords. We took over the church. That was the effective way, listening to the people, giving them what they need, and moving from there. That was an effect. You're absolutely right, Doon. Absolutely right. And
look what the federal government.
Brothers, I'm gonna take the mic and pass it to Asia.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Asia.
So thank you so much. I love listening to y'all talk. I'm from Hollis, and it just makes me want to be home. Sitting with my elders, having reasoning sessions where I learned everything that I know about how to be an active person in my community. So thank you so much for having me. One thing, I wrote down some points that I wanted to make, and I'll try to be quick about it. One thing is when Baba Abiodun talked about when they start arresting the artists, will know something's wrong. They're censoring artists now, and censorship is an arrest of your will. It's an arrest of the free will to be able to express yourself in a way that will empower people. And it creates a tremendous amount of fear in oppressive systems that people would follow somebody that doesn't have any of the attributes that should make them successful in that society. They're not wealthy, they're not white, they're not from an affluent area, they're not well educated, whatever it is that they ascribe to us that are not the characteristics they think we should possess in order to be successful. So when we are artists and they censor us in ways that keep us from being active in our communities, I already know that that process is already taking place. And it's been something that we've been battling for a long time. Second, talking about culture in our communities, what makes our culture so magical and draws so many people is its mastery of alchemy. We take bullshit and breathe it in and spit it out as poetry and music and movies. And we're master alchemists. And wherever there's alchemy, there's magic. And people are drawn to it because they can't understand how we turn bullshit into gold over and over, whether it's gold records, whether it's Grammys, whether it's gold trophies in the NBA, whether it's gold rings, wedding bands, whether it's gold teeth. They can't understand how we turn all of their bullshit into gold. You know, so I consider us as people in our community doing this work, it's our mastery of alchemy that allows us to have whatever it is we need to proceed with our work. Another thing I'd like to say about culture is my uncle, again, I'm from Hollis, Queens. My uncle sent me an article that was called The Evolution of the Hipster, and it goes way back into the initiation of jazz coming into Harlem and places like that. What would happen is the culture would be so thriving and so beautiful and so magical. Again, all the alchemical dust floating up into the air that you could see from space. And white people wanted to be close to that. So once they wanted to be close to it, they moved into the environment. And then they said, well, I want to have my coffee convenient. I don't want to shop at bodegas. I'd rather have a grocery store. I'd rather have this. And they take over and sterilize the area.
And that's where the Starbucks comes in.
Exactly. And the area becomes completely sterilized. And then, you know, first of all, the Black and brown people can't afford to live there anymore because it's obviously incredibly expensive to maintain whiteness, you know, but we can't afford to live there anymore. So we leave, and they just keep following us to wherever that trail of magical dust goes.
Because we are magic, Asia. Exactly. You know, I don't understand why they would take a Starbucks rather than a Puerto Rican cup of coffee.
But what I'm saying is also to remember that alchemy is a practice that began in African-centered cultures and tribes all over the place. We taught the world alchemy. We taught everybody how to do these alchemical processes. We had education centers, the biggest reasoning sessions between all the powers in the world before, you know, we started civilizing Europe and places like that. The biggest centers it was all in Africa because we had all the processes. And what we did is we civilized these places, and they in turn brutalized us with the things that we taught them. You know, in the Jamaican culture, they talk about, things being in Rastafari, it's being split between three brothers, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. One of them gets the tools, one of them gets the knowledge, one of them gets the power, right? And what we've always had is the knowledge, right? And the people who have the tools generally use the tools to abuse, and the people who have the power generally use the power to abuse. But when you're saying, we'll give it to you, Baba Abiodun said, we'll give it to you, because we know that knowledge is divine, right? We know it's something that we possess, but only to pass it. We don't hold it and keep it inside of ourselves. We don't have that kind of selfishness. Another point that I want to make is my mom is Puerto Rican and Dominican, originally from the Bronx. My dad is Jamaican and French Creole. So for me, identity has always been an incredibly interesting thing to navigate everywhere outside of New York, right? So I wasn't Black enough for the Black people, or Puerto Rican enough for the Puerto Ricans, or Jamaican enough. But when I put a mic in my hand and I stand on stage, I'm everything that I need to be in that moment. I'm everything that I could possibly be. And it's an incredibly powerful thing for me. And when we talk about language, Baba Abiodun talked about language. I've known the power of words since I was a very small child. I used to just read encyclopedias and dictionary because my parents exposed me. My grandfather exposed me to very powerful Black orators. My grandfather would listen to jazz on radio in New York. He would play speeches. My grandfather had the records of Malcolm X's speeches, the records of Martin Luther King. He had records of these things, and I learned the power of language. So one thing that I've done as a form of activism, a lot of people are like, what can you do to be active? Activism involves action. So if you want to do something in your community, you find how to do something yourself that you can stay convicted to, right? For example, when you're talking about trash, you say to yourself first, I'm not going to litter anymore. I'm not going to throw trash on the streets I live on. And then the next thing you do is another small action. Like if I see trash, I'm going to pick it up. The third thing you do is organize. I'm going to tell my friends whenever we see trash, we're going to pick it up. And then we're going to organize even more and tell people when you see trash in our neighborhood, you pick it up. Matter of fact, clean all this shit up, right? And that's where it comes into, you know, there's steps to it. And I think what happens now is people just want to be out there in the street after all the work is done, getting the recognition, you know, and that's a big problem. So one way that I've changed language in my family is a lot of times people will say, oh, you did that because I was Black. They said that because I'm Black. They did this because we're Black. And I said, oh, no, brother. They did that because they're an asshole. Something is morally corrupt and ethically corrupt in their heart. Our Blackness has nothing to do with it. And when we say it's because we're Black, it makes it seem like our Blackness is a worthy target for their hatred and their bullshit and their lack of character, upstanding character and failings and moral collapses and all that thing. So I tell people, you did that because of you, not because of me, not because of what I am, but because of what you are not. Right. Mm-hmm. And when we talk to people like that, when I tell the youth that I'm working with, oh, you did that because I'm Black, or you did that because I'm this, I'm saying you're taking all the responsibility of humanity off of that person and putting it on the back of your Blackness or your Puerto Ricanness or your Afro-Latino-ness or whatever. And that's unacceptable. So now the power comes back to us in our hands by saying, actually, no, I'm not going to accept that your whiteness lets every person who's white, who wants to be a serial killer or a rapist or wants to drown babies or wants to steal from people or wants to choke and kill people or hang people from trees. You're normalizing that by saying that our Blackness deserves it. So in this society, what they do through the media is they teach you who it's acceptable to abuse, right? And so for white people at large, throughout history, they told these people who it's okay to abuse through the media. It's okay to abuse Black men. It's okay to rape Black women. It's okay to criminalize Mexican people. It's okay for anybody Afro-Latino to be denied education. You will not be penalized if you abuse these people, right? And I think that's an incredible issue when it comes to our community, is that it's not, when we talk about the systems and the things that are in place, it's saying you have decided that we're the people that are acceptable to abuse, but we don't accept that. And we refuse to accept that, and we won't ever accept it.
Here's the problem, Asia, with that. And I agree with everything you say. Everything.
And you said it very well.
Very eloquently. Right. However, once the word is out, once they come at you and they begin to criminalize Blackness, they begin to criminalize accents, they begin to criminalize religion, as they do with Muslims, they begin to criminalize women. The problem is not so much that we're Black and that we have to put that up as our first event. The problem is there's no fucking response, Asia.
Right.
And I'm tired of men sitting down waiting for Godot. Sam Beckett has a play called Waiting for Godot. What are we going to do?
And I think that's exactly why these conversations are important, because at some point, it's like, let's recognize how people are taught it's acceptable to abuse us and how we're taught that it's acceptable for us to be abused.
Right. Now we have people. Now there are people in Britain who are going through this. There are people in Mali who are going through this. There are people in Myanmar right now. The military took a listen to how colonialism works. If you've noticed, all of a sudden Myanmar is out of the news. There's a woman who had a government in Burma, which is now called Myanmar. All of a sudden, nobody talks about it. And they came out by the hundreds of thousands. And the military said, I don't mean to get away from our topic. The military said, we're going to kill you if you come out. I haven't heard any politician say anything about those human beings over there. I haven't heard any politician speak about what's happening to the children in Yemen who are dying. I haven't heard any politician speak about the recent coalition of the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Jordan, all of them coming together to go against Iran. Why do they want to go against Iran? What is wrong with the Persians? All of a sudden they're bad people? I'm telling you, we need. They have no idea of how they can mess things up. And if they mess with Iran, Iran has a lot of people throughout the world. What I'm trying to get at is that at some point, those of us of color, those of us who've been educated in oppression, because we are, will have to sit down and say, how much do we want to take this shit?
Exactly.
How much do we want to take this nonsense?
And I feel like when we're talking about Felipe, excuse me for interrupting. My mom would kill me for knowing that.
But it's all right. It's all right.
But one thing that's important to me when we're talking about the media, like you said, DMC from Run DMC, who comes from my neighborhood, said musicians succeed and poets succeed where religion and politics fail.
Amen.
Right? And I believe that the conversation, we as our culture, like what we do is we create the conversation. When I first met Rebel Diaz, I'm watching them perform, and that's a conversation. I was getting news. I was getting knowledge. I was getting information. It's always been the street. It's always been the poets and the rappers and the singers. It's always been us giving people the real deal, like giving people the real news. And so when you said earlier, if you're gonna speak, make sure you're speaking righteously with uprightness, right? And as an artist, I completely take that into my heart and into my mind and into my spirit. Right, because I know that when I'm speaking, what it is that I'm doing, the position that I'm in, the news that I'm delivering, right? And I don't want to deliver people any bullshit. There's enough of that. You could turn on any channel in the world, but if people are trying to know what's really going on, like think of how related music and poetry is to mobilization of organized units.
Yes.
The park jams, the raising
and it's not. And it's not always in the black church. See what I saw this thing yesterday called the Black Church.
On PBS.
I saw it. And I loved it. It was wonderful. It was not revolutionary. It was I understand that they helped. They were able to survive as a culture. But I think the church has to become a revolutionary church. Or we're going to continue to go through the same kind of compromise politics, co-optive politics that we've gone through. I mean, after they kill King, and by the way, people say, well, Felipe, you talk militant. We can't do that because we can die. You're dying anyway. Malcolm said you're dead anyway. What are we going to do, folks? Are we going to continue to berate the fact that we live in America? I tell Puerto Ricans this all the time. You talk about the independence of Puerto Rico, but you're not willing to do anything about it. We put 1 million people on the highway. We got rid of a governor, and suddenly it stopped. As if that's the end of the problem. Puerto Rico is still going through hell.
As long as the activists are doing the work, the musicians gonna bring the visibility. We all here together.
Hey, so real quick, I'm a grab the mic. Grab the mic real quick. We're talking about Puerto Rican independence. I feel it's a perfect segue into the culture. We have a cultural piece real quick because we have so much talent. I want to make sure we're able to also have some performances come out. So
yes, sir.
We're gonna go into our first performance. And this is actually a collab. G, do we have that lined up? Just want to make sure we have that lined up. G, you there? Yes.
He's right there.
Okay. So real quick, we have a special, we've never performed this, but we have a song with our brother Divine. Divine, if you on, just show your face real quick. I know you on a bus.
Yeah, I'm in a car now. I just don't know if you can see me because I can't see myself. I guess when I talk, you can see me.
We hear you. So earlier today, Divine knew that he was traveling. We did a pre-record of a collaboration song that we have together, which is actually a remix. And it's an official remix because we connected with the Ghetto Brothers. And it's a remix of an anthem that was done by the Ghetto Brothers called Viva Puerto Rico Libre. And so this song is about Puerto Rican independence. We're clear that after Hurricane Maria, there was 4,645 people that were died, that were killed. And so while the Orange Man was throwing paper towels at our community, we're clear that the Puerto Rican community was not only suffering from Hurricane Maria, but the main hurricane it was suffering was Hurricane America.
Harvard said that 5,000 died.
5,000?
Harvard said that their independent studies proved that 5,000 died.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so this song, when I went to Shepherd, we did a remix of a song by the Ghetto Brothers that my understanding is a song that they were actually pushed in the direction of doing this song by the Young Lords. I don't know if I'm correct on that history, but this is Viva Puerto Rico Libre remix that we did. Rebel Diaz, Divine RBG with the Ghetto Brothers, Yellow Benji on the hook. I don't know. You got that, G? Hit that real quick.
Hit it.
Yo, esta próxima canción, this next joint is dedicated to y'all, you know what I'm saying? Felipe, Abiodun, you know what I'm saying? Respect the last poets, the Young Lords, you know what I mean? This is a little remix that y'all might remember, you know what I'm saying? This is the Ghetto Brothers repping the Bronx with Viva Puerto Rico Libre. We thought we'd do a little hip hop remix with our brother Divine RBG. Let's go. El volumen pa' eso. Yeah. De las entrañas del monstruo a la isla del encanto. Borinquen, viva Puerto Rico libre. Let's go. Yellow Benji, rest in power. Sing it, y'all. Let's get it, my G. Yeah. Yo. Al pie de lucha, pero estoy cansado. Hasta cuando aceptamos seguir como esclavos. No quiero vivir comiendo migas. No quiero llorar por nuestra vida. Si no luchamos, no sobrevivimos. If we don't struggle, we die, my people. Hasta cuando, compañeros, vamos a seguir siendo. No que olviden la tortura al infierno. Yo no quiero colonización, solo quiero liberación. Don Pedro Albizu lo dijo mejor. No importa ser fuerte si no hay valor. We must be brave, united hermanos. South Bronx to the north for Chicago. Man, love to la isla del encanto. Ghetto Brothers, take it out with the canto. What up, y'all?
Hey, man, what's happening?
You already know. Black and brown power.
Right on.
What up, Rebel Diaz? Abiodun, we love you.
Hey, baby.
Dear Benji, since you've been gone, we've been hit with a terrible storm. The guns are drawn, the war is on, and we still don't know what side we on. We've been fighting for power and water. They stop our supplies at border. Our nights is hard. Rashada's daughter had a baby on a couch on the corner of flood in the house. Marita put a roof and a fucking hood out. We hungry like wolves foaming on the mouth. It's live, nigga. It's really on now. The war's on now. The roots from the trees of the land that you love has slowly been torn out. Viva Puerto Rico libre. Let's go, come on, come on.
Viva Puerto Rico libre.
From the Shy City to the BX, to Puerto Rico, que viva libre. Peace to the Young Lords. Black and brown power, let's go, come on. Hunts Point to Humber Park. Growing up, PR wasn't far at all. Had it in my heart. Una vista internacional, amor a toda la diáspora. Oscar un mito, un paseo boricua, buscando historias sobre Lolita. Bateo urbano organizando en los barrios de Chicago. Luego Filiberto asesinado. In New York, the feds went wild. Subpoenas, investigaciones, knocking the doors of a few of the homies. No cooperamos colonizadores, nunca hablamos con los opresores. Oh yeah, defending PR hasta la muerte. With my brothers work to Yellow Benji, yo, Viva Puerto Rico libre. Let's go, nice. Come on, come on. Yeah, yeah, say it with us, y'all. Say it with us, y'all. Let's go. Come on, come on. Come on. Let's go.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's on. It's on.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's beautiful. That came out nice.
Use our skills to teach and raise levels. That's perfect.
See, the thing that I love it. I love it. You know what I realized, Dune? The reason they got rid of the Latin Kings is because they didn't want another organized criminal organization in this country. They let the Italians go through. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because Hoover was very close to them in the 20s and 30s.
Absolutely.
So he knew these guys and he let them slide. But I remember they busted 95 Latin Kings up in Poughkeepsie and nobody did anything about it up in Newburgh. And I kept on telling the middle class organizations here, you got to fight for these kids. I told the what do they call it? The people who there's a teachers organization. You got to fight for these kids. Listen, I was in a gang. I know that God saved me in order to help save other people. One of those kids could be a Malcolm. One of those kids could be an Albizu Campos. One of those kids could be Asia. We've got to begin to move forward and help these kids. My thing is, you can't take new wine and put it in old bottles, brother. We need youth energy.
Absolutely.
My son tells me all the time, I hear what you're saying, Dad. I got it. But there are different ways to approach a problem. And what Rebel Diaz is very true. Sometimes I'm a lot more confrontation and a lot more militant. But you can't hit everybody with that. So you got to go to art. Art is the finest way, the most subtle, the most insidious way of getting people to be conscious.
That's right.
You know how many people
visual art, dance, poetry, music, like every aspect of the arts. I want to make sure we recognize everybody who's doing everything, and we give respect to all the people that are visual artists and dancers and poets and musicians and singers and rappers. Everybody. I want to make sure everybody is spoken about. But one thing, talking about the youth, that's important is we're very specific, and I know that Rebel Diaz is as well. And one thing Samir and I did was use our music, because when you're talking about sometimes with nonprofits, your way to get access to the youth is through music. It's one of the easiest ways to have a program bring you into a school to be able to educate people about anything. So what Samir and I did is we developed this program called Funding the Future with a couple other people, this woman named Sasha from Raymond James. And what we did is we worked with this group, a guy named Gooding started it. We would go perform at a school and then give a financial literacy presentation. And we were going to places like Flint, Michigan, where they didn't even have, the water was still poisoned. They didn't have any glass in the windows. It was all boarded up. We were going to Chicago. We were going to Detroit. We were going to New York. We were going to Florida. We were going to all these communities where there's no conversations being had about what it means to how to organize your money. You don't have that much. Everybody thinks it's only a concept you should learn when you're older or when you're wealthy. But really, when we started talking to these kids, the capacity for these youth to understand the power of the dollar is like unmatched. They understand. They're so intelligent. These youth are so intelligent, and I think we underestimate their intelligence constantly.
Not only that, you got to see the 8 and 9 year olds. You got to see the 8 and 9 year olds. I can't believe when I start talking to them.
We do like preschool, like babies, three. And you can ask Rod. We go from the bottom. We did a trip to Uganda. We went to Uganda, Kampala. I mean, not Kampala, that was Congo, but we went to Uganda, and we went to this village because 80% of the population was under the age of 18. And so the kids had their own structure of community activism and politics in place. It was a place called Jinja. The first thing that they did, because their infant mortality rate was so high, is they raised all this money by farming. They started a farm, sold all the produce, and bought a bunch of mopeds to be able to take expectant mothers into the city on the moped to help them give birth. And I mean, these are kids. I'm talking about the kid who pulled up on the moped to tell me about this was 11 years old. And he was creating an ambulatory service to take expectant mothers to the hospital because they weren't getting any care where they were. And
Asia, real quick, piggybacking off what you said, I think it's super important, like to put that out there, in that, you know what I mean? A lot of times folks get stuck on the opposing part. And when we were organizing, we used to always say, you can't just oppose, you got to propose.
That's right.
And a lot of, what was dope with that was that for us, a lot of times the art that we were creating itself was a proposal. You know what I'm saying? It was like to me. Go ahead.
Right. And the thing is, Rob, when you say that, is the crazy thing is that everybody knows who the enemy is and what the enemies are, but we don't know who's on our team. Like, we don't know who we're working with.
But Asia, that's because the reason
when it comes to kids, that we're underestimating their capability for change. Look at the Birmingham's Children March. Like, you want to stop initiating, like we're leaving them out, and they're forcing themselves into the conversation.
The gangs know their value. The gangs start organizing when they're 8 and 9. And feeding
them and taking care of them. And even Rebel Diaz, the first thing that they did was they went to the youth and they said, we're going to provide everything for you to sustain you in your character and your abilities and to show you things about yourself you didn't know you were capable of. And they've raised so many young leaders who had no idea of their leadership because Rodstarz, G1, Illinois, the whole crew at Art BX saw something in these youth that they couldn't even see in themselves. And not only did they see it, but they nurtured it and they fed it and they exposed it for everybody to see. And it was so impressive to us when we went to that candy factory. They we had our children with us. I have 3 children. It was so impressive that I recommitted and became convicted to my mission with my music more than ever and than I ever have in my life. And I just have to say thank you to Rebel Diaz and Divine brought us to, he was working with young girls that were in the system. He brought me out to speak to the girls, just to speak to them and to build their confidence and to see them, to recognize them, not to walk past them or write them off.
Asia, do you understand what they're trying to do is isolate us? This COVID has isolated us. And what we need is to bring people together. You said you traveled to Flint, Michigan. That's revolutionary. In the 60s, we traveled all over. The last ports went all over the country.
That's right.
Giving our advice. We can't travel anymore. So now there's some kid in Tampa, Florida. There's some kid in Santurce, Puerto Rico. There's some kid in Santo Domingo who wants to hear this, who needs to hear this, and we're not able to travel. We traveled all over the country, and we were able to raise consciousness because of that. We need to do that again. The next Revolutionary Army is going to be made up of 8- and 9-year-olds. Mark my words. There's a very famous movie called Battle of Algiers. One of the main characters is a young kid. Is a young kid who dies with them. Who said, "I'm down all the way," and I'm telling you, these kids are down. Why do you think the Army recruits young people? Because they have this, what I call true rebellion in them, and they're ready to move. We've got to begin to appeal to them through art. Then they can develop their politics. But first, get them to understand how worthy they are, how beautiful they are. You walk through this community in East Harlem and you see Mexican mothers bringing their kids to school. I tell Puerto Ricans, stop criticizing Mexicans. They're taking care of business. And they're going to be the next Greeks in this country because they can cook anything. You see them everywhere. Y que se dejan de la mierda. No, because they're Mexicans and they stop that bullshit. I went into a Japanese store and I saw a guy and he had what we call una mancha de plata. And I knew he was one of mine. And I went up to him and I said, "Oh yeah." He said, "Shh, cállate." He didn't want anybody to know he didn't want anybody to know he was Mexican. I'm telling you, we've got the goods. We've got the goods. All we need to do is organize our children, as they say in South Carolina. We organize our kids and we get them to understand.
We have to keep them from becoming cynical because that's damaging to the evolution of
you know why they're cynical? Because they don't see their parents doing anything. The church isn't doing anything. And what they got on TV is bullshit. It's Disney. What we need to do is begin to develop programs through the art thing that give them a sense of being, give them a sense of spirituality. Those kids, if you see these little black preachers out here, they start at 8 and 9, and I see them in the church going like this, and it's amazing. They pick that stuff up. I heard a guy interpret a Jamaican rap song. I didn't understand what the hell this guy was saying, and he interpreted it for me. I don't know how they do it. They are geniuses. What are we going to do with our next generation? Because if we're not going to give these kids a way to go, they're going to be caught they're going to get caught up in what you said, Asia, nihilism, which means nothing for nothing means nothing. And that's scary.
And apathy and all of that.
I'm going to pass the mic because hearing all this talk about art, I want to see some art. I want to hear some art. And Asia Black is one of my favorite artists on the planet, and she going to rock for us. So bless us, please, Asia, with your art.
For sure. So we worked on a project where we traveled all around the United States on an ethnomusicology kind of journey, looking at the roots of Black music in different regions. So this music, there's an old time blues tradition where they just play the same bass line over and over, and you kind of come up with the story that you're telling. And it's in Morocco, and it's in Uganda, and it's in Kinshasa, and all these places. So I think Rain is telling us something about muting. Okay, so I'm gonna share this song with you. It's called Dust and Bones in the old New Orleans blues spiritual tradition. So here we go. here today to lay to rest all the mess standing in our way, to bury all the ghosts, all the skeletons and demons, all the weaknesses that keep us from receiving better things. Set an intention to give more, need less, make a way for the blessing, more freedom, less stress. Stop thinking about everyone else and underestimating yourself, and take all of your doubt, all your guilt and depression, all you're looking for validation in people in possession. Take all of your hurt and all of your fear and bury all of that right here. Dust and bones, dust and bones. I've been holding on to you for way too long. I'm giving up the ghost and moving on. Dust and bones, dust and bones, dust and bones. I've been holding on to you for way too long. Giving up the ghost and moving on. Dust and bones, dust and bones. Oh, what a feeling. Now that I can see that I got love for something, yeah, but it ain't got love for me. Oh, what a feeling. Now that I can see that I got love for something, yeah, that ain't got love for me. Huh. Huh. Ha. Listen. Trying to find more reasons to smile than to cry, cause these eyes have known rivers bigger than the space between the saints and the sinners in a world that doesn't even seem to pray anymore. What can I say anymore when the war's waged against us and the wars raging in us are about the same size, and these times are so different, so vicious, so crucial, so dark and so bright at the very same time. I urge you to carry any goodness you could find. I know it feels heavy, but you'll better wait in time. With the ease of baby smiles, for your spirit get grown, your energy explode, for your feet on unpaved roads. Put a flower in a gun till I'm bucking shot for peace, as our warriors and creatures to protect us from police. There's flames in our bellies, so there's fire in the street, cause all you ever fed us was injustice and defeat. But we don't have to eat, and we will not retreat. Devoured all your sour, now we craving for the sweet. We have hands that know violence and hearts that know grief. Our souls screaming silence, begging for relief. Police, what if I should take a bullet, flip the trigger at your baby? Say it's his ways that made me do it, huh? Could you forgive me? I ain't got that hatred in me. That's the sour in your stomach, the bitter in your bones, and that's the fact that you can't stand to see a black man on the throne in the place you call home. And that's the fact that you can't stand to see a black man on the throne in the place you call home. What a feeling. Now that I can see that I got love for something, yeah, but it ain't got love for me. Oh, what a feeling. Now that I can see that I got love for something, yeah, that ain't got love for me now. Huh. Hey. Yeah. Hey. Dust and bones. Hey. Yeah. Hey. Dust and bones. Thank you.
Yo.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Asia, for blessing us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. G, do we have the divine beat, the divine contribution, the video? You do? Hey, Divine, you want to introduce it real quick and just the song
Yeah,
we're about to share?
I would love. Y'all can hear me? Y'all can hear me well?
Yeah.
February.
Oh, so first I want to say thank you for having me. This
Does it even work anymore?
Everything was changed.
No, it doesn't.
It was written because my close friend and comrade, my brother, was murdered about 4 years ago. And it was like a black and brown situation. It was on 154 on Cortland Avenue. African-American brothers were arguing with a Mexican family coming after a baby shower. And my brother was trying to stop the fight. And another Mexican brother that was a little intimidated shot him in the back. So I wrote this record. You know what I mean? His name was Rafael Guzman. And I wrote this song called Everything Must Change. You know what I mean?
I hope you can hear it, you know what I mean?
Yep,
I'm in the car.
We can't sell dope forever, that's what he told me. When truth used to speak like that, I listened closely. It was more than just friends, comrades, or blood and homies. We was bonded by a vision of change that made us coldies. Co-defendants so relentless. There was no box or no cage that could hold offenses. So locked in a rage that was so tremendous. Couldn't stop by the coldest winters. We was born in the bondage of poverty and addiction. When the dope fiend spoke on the block, we would listen. Power rule, Kango and Cash was our session. We made the hip hop and dope era our blessing. The Lord time has changed. How can I adore this pain? Water over land, I change. Okay. I just wanna make it on, yeah. Tell me when we moving on, yeah. They shooting like an episode. Oh, this weight on me, I need it, yeah. All my brothers living proof. When they coming from the block, I need it, yeah. Won't you tell them who we are? Tell them who we are, I need it, yeah. And that's where the truth, man. I put that on my dog, I need it. Put that on my dog, I need it. When they gon' learn, I need it. Damn, they killed my brother for some bullshit. When I hear the story with some bullshit, I know my nigga mad like this is bullshit. Every day a nigga get murdered for some bullshit, which I was there. It would've never happened. Niggas can't look in my face when they say what happened. Got great memories, bro. I can hear you laughing. Your funeral was litty, my nigga. You's a fucking classic. My city's forgotten. Everybody's passing. People murder people with no fucking compassion. We made it now and smoke the ashes. We say I shade and santo, the rites of passage. Nigga, I can civilize any savage. I be truth mobbing with the masses. This is skinny Ralphie with the glasses. Yo, can I live? I just wanna make it on, yeah. Tell me when we moving on, yeah. They shooting like an episode. Oh, this weight on me, I need it, yeah. Every day now, doing stupid shit, I don't need to say how. Lame niggas winning on some gimmick shit. And real niggas act like they don't give a shit. Everybody faking chats on social media. My baby mom's acting like I ain't seeing her. I hate to mention her like I be near her, but last night I had a dream with Jim, I wanna be with her. A lot of things have changed since you been gone, bro. Shit so real, can't even call your moms, bro. So I wrote the song to let the world know the love's growing stronger and stronger since you been gone, bro. You know that, hold back, devil trying to roll that. I hope y'all feel me. It's that black and brown power. Eating up our heart, yeah. It's for mommy now, you know what I mean? Alguna vez en la vida hay que cambiar, pero por siempre te voy a recordar. Fire. Tu memoria por siempre en mi va a estar. Ahora en el cielo te ha tocado volar. Alguna vez en la vida hay que cambiar. Entendí por qué te fuiste, pero entiendo que sufriste, por eso no lo debía. Por amor me quedo allá arriba. Y yo sé que tú a mí me escuchas. No te miraré jamás y nunca. Me vuelve el pasillo de la fama. De mi alma. Montañas, vamos a mover montañas. Black and brown power, you already know. Divine RBG, I love all of y'all.
Thank you, brother. That was good. Thank you.
I love you, Divine.
Thank you, Divine.
Thank you. I love you too. I be trying to keep it real. I know I be swearing and all that, but these kids gotta hear me.
Hey, wherever you at, wherever we all at, that's where we're gonna meet. That's it.
You know,
why do people get mad when they hear curses? I don't get mad at that.
The system is
nobody from New York gets mad. We don't get mad. We like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I get mad when people don't curse. Shit.
I'm passionate, so I appreciate it.
I want to thank you, Divine, man. That music, especially that song, because I knew, you know what I mean. I knew Truffy, and I know that what he meant to you. So, you know, I was.
You came through with the speaker at the funeral home, man. You had the speaker. I don't think nobody ever played no music that loud.
It was a classic. I know because I was there.
Hey, Divine, here's what knocks me out. You could have been very angry at Mexicans in general, Mexicans in particular, and Latinos in general. You didn't do that. And it's amazing to me, your message of healing. You know, King Curtis died the same way. King Curtis was had a house on the west side, and some Puerto Ricans were standing, or I think they were Mexicans, I'm not sure. They were sitting on the stoop, and because he couldn't understand Spanish and didn't understand the culture, and the culture goes like this: wherever we sit, that's where we sit. You know, we don't mean to own it. And he got mad, and one thing led to another, and a great icon in blues culture got killed. You know, this was the guy that Jimi Hendrix went to, King Curtis. He was the first one he studied under.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. Yo, I'm be honest with you. I'm brown, I'm black. A lot of Mexicans, they don't even hear me talk Spanish when I'm talking Spanish because they discriminate so hard. So what I try to do is try to just be very clear to them, like I'm speaking to you in Spanish.
Right.
Te estoy hablando en español, buen día, por favor, lo que quiero es esto, lo que quiero es lo otro. Because they don't want to hear it, bro. They are very
they've been colonized, Papi.
Mm-hmm.
Divine, they've been colonized. Remember what they say. They did this a long time ago. One drop of black blood makes you black. One drop of white blood makes you white. So they think because they have a parent, a great-great-great-grandparent in Spain, that they're white. Se creen que son blancos, brother. Dominicans
on some other shit too, on some street shit, because I did a lot of work with youth in the South Bronx. That whole area of 138th now, and even in Harlem, is mad Mexican kids. And when I remember when I first got out here, remember we came from Chicago, where there's generations of Mexicans already.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But even geographically, the Mexicans that are coming to New York, they mostly from the indigenous areas. They not from the white areas like the Mexicans in Denver and the Mexicans in Chicago. They Mexicans from Puebla, from Guerrero. So they look indigenous. And I also know for a fact
they're from Oaxaca. They're from the southern side of Mexico. And let me tell you something. Those people right now have developed a whole new movement of black Mexicans. They want to be considered black Mexicans.
They're the black Mexicans. But a lot of them, when they first arrived, I know because I used to work in the high schools, they became the ones that were getting bullied on heavy. Yeah. You know what I mean? I remember, for example, like I seen the transition go from when Dominicans first started arriving. First, they used to get picked on because they spoke Spanish. You feel me? And then the Mexican kids started getting picked on in like the early to mid 2000s. So you know, I've seen both sides of it, and we clear as divide and conquer. You know what I'm saying? And so,
of course.
And so, but
it's like that in Colorado
in the interest of time, it's 9:27. We're supposed to end at 9:30. I want to give these last 3 minutes, Felipe or Abiodun. Do y'all want to share a piece? And close us out for the night.
Please do.
I don't mind sharing a piece. I just want to say, first of all, I've truly enjoyed everything everyone has to say. I do see our understanding of how we are one family, and that some of us were dropped off in places where Spanish was a dominant language, and some of us were dropped off where French was the dominant language and English was the dominant language. So many of us, like Felipe has articulated, have adopted many of the colonial ways, and we don't see ourselves as being African people. We talk about black. Black is a source from which all things come. Let's make it clear. It's not a color. It is the basis of all colors. And we need to recognize black is not a complexion. It's a reflection of all complexions called human. So when you are dealing with your blackness, you're dealing with your humanity. And it's not, and we shouldn't be afraid of that. Black, they tried to spook black up, make black some kind of horror story, all that, because white folks know that it's from blackness in which they've come. You can look at a box of crayons. The black crayon can create all the other colors in the box. There's no other crayon that can do that. That speaks volumes. So we need to get on the right page and recognize we're not dealing with colors. We're dealing with the essence of mankind that we represent. There's a poem that I wrote when I was, the last poets tried to purge the whole concept of niggers out of the community. And we say niggers, we're talking about those people who are not going to work together, those people who are going to be easily persuaded by the colonizers and cause disruption and not cause unity. Felipe is very correct when he says we need to continue our cultural practices, but we also need to protect our culture. And who is willing to do that? That's a problem for us to protect what we have that's precious, because we're always going to be targets. But I wanted to do a piece to confirm our being here. My people are black, beige, yellow, brown, and beautiful. A garden of life with a love as sweet as scooping on wine. Growing in muddy waters, making brown babies with pink feet and quick minds. My people warm, sometimes hot, always cool, always together. Together in church and school and jail, in the service, in the streets of the ghettos throughout this forsaken land. My people Let's be together. Understand we've lived together. Understand we've died together. Understand, my brother, I've smelled your piss in my hallway and it smells just like mine. Understand that I love your woman, my sister, and her rare beauty is reason enough for a revolution. Yes, sister, my honest sister, we have had ugly moments together, but you're the only beauty I've ever known. Yes, sister, my honest sister, you are the joy of my smile, the reality of my dreams. You're the only sister I have, and I need you. I need you to be the summer of my winters. I need you to be the lover of the race. I need you to be the lover of my children. I need you because you are the natural life in the living. At night, there's a moon to make the blackness be felt. I am that blackness, filling up the world with my soul, and the world knows me. You are that moon, my moon goddess, peacefully smiling down light on my black face that fills the universe. My moon, I am your sun, and I shall take this piece of light and build a world for you, my sister. Sometimes the waters are rough, and the hungry tide swallows the shore, washing away all memories of children's footsteps playing in the sand. Where is the world I promised my son? Must he push back the tide and build the world I've talked about? Am I so godly until I forget what a man is? Am I so right until there's no room for patience, my brother? Oh, my brother, my brother, my brother. Father of a son, my brother, father of a warrior, my brother the son, my brother the warrior. Be the beginning and the end for my sister. Be the revolution for our world. Turn yourself into yourself, and then on to this disordered world and arrange the laughter for joy and the tears for sorrow. Turn purple pants, alligator shoes, leather jackets, brown boots, polka dot ties, silk suits, false eyelashes, red wigs, brown wigs, Easter bonnets, bell bottoms. Turn this confusion into unity so that the sun will follow our footsteps in the day, so that the moon will glow in our living rooms at night, so that food, clothing, and shelter will be free because we're born free to have the whole world as our playground, my people. Thank you.
Love it.
Wow.
That's so
Yeah, I'm
beautiful.
honored to hear this. I'm honored, Abiodun. Honored. Honored.
Wow.
All the flowers to you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you,
very
so
much.
much.
Happy
We gotta say
birthday.
happy birthday.
Gotta sing happy birthday.
Let's go.
Set it off.
Set it off, Asia.
Happy birthday to you.
To you.
Happy birthday to you.
To you.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
All right, that's enough. Thank you very
Happy
much. Thank y'all.
birthday to
Hey,
you.
come on, let's get it. Come
Happy
on,
birthday.
here.
Happy
Happy birthday,
birthday
To you.
Happy birthday
Thank
to
you
you.
all.
Happy
Listen, all I ask is that we all stay on point, continue to do the work that we've been assigned to do. We've all been given assignments, and we can win. We're not dealing with something that is out of our realm of winning. We need to respect each other, join forces whenever we can, and influence those folks around us. I don't believe that we are as lost as many people like to say and think. I believe in the young people. All they need is a little guidance, a little conversation. We don't need to antagonize them. Many of them are spouting things that the capitalist system has implanted in them, and they need to be taught. And we can change that. But we can do it with our art. We can do it with our presence. And don't be afraid to confront the children because they want that and they need that. But confront them always with love.
All right. All right, Doom.
Love it. Thank you so
My mom
much.
heard y'all. She
everybody.
had to come in and watch. My mom came. She's like, I gotta watch this.
Well, let me see her.
Mommy,
Hey, Mom.
mommy. Come here, they want to see. This is my mom, originally from the Bronx, Puerto Rican and Dominican, Luis de la
We love
Cruz.
your mom. Your
around, let
mom.
me see you
I
again.
can't
That's
see her. There she is. There she is. Damn. Así está la cosa.
Hey, Mom.
That's that Puerto Rican Dominican mix. It's deep.
That's a beautiful mix.
Now let me show you. Now let me show you my oldest. Felipe. Felipe. Come over here, man. I want them to see your face. This is the guy who does a radio program with me. There he is, bend down.
I'm finished. This is over.
Before we go, I want to close out. No one go yet. I want to thank Rebel Diaz, G1, Rodstarz, Illinois for hosting this and getting everything together. I want to thank Asia Black and Divine RBG for performing and telling us their stories. And of course, a big shout out, happy birthday to Abiodun. And it's so great to have you on our show. But we want to close out Felipe, the good Felipe Luciano of the Young Lords, Last Poets. Can you close us out the show with a poem? We didn't get to hear from you.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to figure out which okay, here it is. I like the sound of you, the chicharron smell of your living room, the yellow crinkled plastic of your sofa, the ancient piss and soap steam fragrance of your bathroom. You are so many things to me, brown girl. I've watched you for a long time and admit to a love that sees no reason, hears no logical order of why you arch your back voluntarily to receive the seed. This love is madness. It's me seeking after you, you waiting, seeking after me. I'm the spirit of Schomburg, the sword of Maceo, the rhythm of Cortijo, the Sphinx you refuse to see, the pyramids you've forgotten about. I'm the cacique who said no to Columbus and tested white voodoo by drowning a Spaniard in Añasco. I believe in Taino ways, live free or die. Survival in slavery is not worth the dawn. The sun never rises really, and only fools and children believe that love is in the mail on the 1st and the 16th of the month. Believe in us, believe in the word, because it is God. See the vision and say yes to yourself, Boricua, because the yes is the little black lady standing over the stove you know so well. I like the sound of you, the hip ass thighs of you, the thick brown kissable neck of you, the full lip big white teeth of you. And I hurt when you hate me, if even for a short time, your claws are venomous. You will stoop low enough to call me an alien, a New York Rican, and dumb enough to believe in the man who bombed your harbor, promised you freedom, and gave you a legacy of half men and sterilized women. Yet you look at my blackness and reject, spick. Sometimes you are sick. It must be said publicly and in the open. Bunch your balls up all you want. Smear all the new shades of makeup on your face. It won't change the day nor the hour. The machine was built to beat you, sucker. Every day it beats you. And you keep coming back for more. Dame el número, Panchita. 0, 0, 0, negro. Nunca en tu vida tú vas a ganar until you come see about me. Believe in me. Stop looking around for other novelas. There's no channel as interesting as your son. There's no movie as fascinating as our dance halls. No woman more intriguing than your grandmother. Believe in us. Trust me. My songs, my dance, my speech, my fist, my prayer. It may be difficult to understand, but we here have found out that God is in us. So light the candles, kneel and pray to yourself. I like the sound of you, like the way you say your name, like the way you move your hands when you speak, the long strands of hair at your temple. I like your loud garish ways and your machine gun Spanish, like your tolerance for oddballs and hate your patience with oppressors. Love your pride for each other and hate your humility with the boss. You'll bet on 3 numbers every day, but won't bet on yourselves. You scream about baseball and might even fight, but won't say a word to a nasty landlord and will slice a spick like salami if he messes with your woman, but won't touch the cop who shoots your boy through the head for talking like a man. You're a strange combination, Puerto Rican, but I love you because in the end, you're all I've got. And soon you'll come to the end of this tunnel dream and realize I'm all you've got too. I like the sound of you.
That was beautiful, man.
Thank you so much, Felipe. That was incredible. And everyone, thank you so much for a really great program.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you.
Well, it was great to work with you again. And we will have this video up on our Facebook page. People can go back and check it out. And again, thank you to everyone for taking part. Abiodun, enjoy the rest of your birthday celebrations. And we'll be in touch. You know, hopefully we'll see you all come back. We have more programming starting in a couple of weeks for our March program.
Please involve me. Keep me involved. I'm with it.
Thank you, everybody.
Bendiciones a todos.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Everybody.
God bless you guys.
Thank you
God
to
bless you
everybody.
guys. Bobby, stop standing behind her looking like a gangster.
Thank you, everybody.
Bobby's a cool.
Thank you, Elena. Great, you were great, Aja. It was great to see you perform.
In